What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be the very first album review to begin the discography of one of the world's most beloved progressive and pop bands of Genesis. So I'm going to go into each album in their discography from the first to the last, and I'm going to be reviewing the band's first record entitled From Genesis to Revelation. From Genesis to Revelation was released in the year of 1969. Most of the album was recorded in 68 in the month of August. However, the single of Silent Sun was recorded in December 67. This would mark the beginning of Genesis finding a craft and shapes and sizes of their own, and they were pretty much very well known to be one of the first bands to later on grow the popularity and the massive acclaim of the progressive rock genre. Although with this album, this lineup consists with Peter Gabriel, Tony Banks, Anthony Phillips, Mike Rutherford, and John Silver. Although the original drummer, Chris Stewart, remains as the band's original drummer, although Silver did most of the drums with the album's recording progression. With this album, upon its release, it did not set Genesis a lot of the attention. It barely sold 1,000 copies, and over time you see multiple reissues with some bonus tracks, and for a debut album, this was unfortunately the most ignored and dismissed album in the Genesis discography, which I think is a very big shame, because this was a beginning where Genesis were growing themselves as a band, although this obviously does not present Genesis who they truly would become yet. But this is a very different album than what you would expect with the classic era of Peter Gabriel. The entirety of the album was musically written in a very baroque pop, folky, psychedelic-ish kind of feel, and this just does not mark Genesis at their biggest peak. But for a debut record, I totally respect and understand what they were trying to massively achieve on the album here. And the production was done by Jonathan King. The first track on the album, Where the Sour Turns Sweet, a hand clap and piano introduction, and the music builds an acoustic and piano connection. It's a very folky style, and the vocals sound really nice. And also the strings bring in a gentle vibe. This is a major poppy feel with most of the parts of the song. It's a decent number, but it does have some nice written lyrics, and other tracks like the second one, In the Beginning, does provide a very good bass rhythm to begin this very psychedelic tinged number, with some flanger sounds to come in to make a weird, trippy made feel. The drums onto the track were pretty consistent as well with the distorted lead guitar work. Vocally, it sounds really great with Gabriel's sound of his higher vocal range. It was a structure of the song that I quite liked very much, and I do like the versatility of the track. The later songs on the album, like Fireside Song, to me this is a very, very well focused mark of instrumentation, with a piano-made written introduction, and then the acoustic guitar pops in to present a vibe, again with the connection of the orchestration. It's a similar vibe like the first track. This is a very gentle, with a melodic feel vocally at the same time. A really nice number, really good tracks on the album that I like a lot of Am I Very Wrong? This is a very soft balladry kind of style, again with a piano introduction, with the sounds of strings. It does provide something very expressive for Peter Gabriel vocally, and I do like the sound of the 12-string acoustic guitar as well onto the track with the horn arrangements. It does present something on a very moody minor feel, works out with its presence. I think this is one of the best tracks on the album. To another one that I really enjoy very much, which is In Hiding. I do love the sound of the vocal harmonies onto the track because it sounds very calm and so sweet, and a lot of the lyricism goes with the expressive vocals. They were very poetic in places, something very imaginative. In Hiding does proceed so well with its balladry style, and it's another one of the best tracks on the album. Then we go to some of the songs that I don't think hits things very, very remarkable, like onto the tracks of The Serpent. Don't get me wrong, it is a decent number. A very clean acoustic and electric guitar introduction with percussion, and then the mood of the song then changes with sounds of the organ and the direction of some more rhythm onto the drums. It does present something big on a mark of diversity, on, I guess, its type of experimental-ish kind of feel, and hearing some crashing drums and backing vocal harmony and lead work. It is a decent number, but not one of the best ones. I think with some of the later tracks go, it does have a moment on a pretty repetitive and inconsistent feel that is not really worth memorable or as working out very well in a dynamic feel. One Day being one of the weaker tracks on the album. It does not fulfill me enough. It's a decent number on the record, but again, like some of the ones previously, not one of my favourites. And the same thing with In Limbo, which instrumentally marks something very decent, and I get where they are going to achieve something here, but with most of the tracks that I really enjoyed, that's what I like on the album. But with some of the later tracks go, they kind of lack something. They just don't think to themselves as something very well planned out or very well written. But I do like a lot of the majority onto the album. And as with the single of Silent Sun, this is an excellent number. Being the first single to be released in the Genesis discography, it's very playful with a poppy, very consistent sound. The vocal delivery was great. It does sound very delicate, and the sound of the musicianship was brilliant of this track's progression. This is, for a debut single, wonderful, brief, catchy sounding track. The majority of the album can be very ignored for most Genesis fans, which is very unfortunate because there is so much good stuff here with the momentum of when Genesis would later on become one of the infamous masters of the genre. But I think for this debut album, I can see why a lot of people ignore it. And the production done by Jonathan King, as I said, to me is not very, very well mixed and balanced so well. It just sounds so muffled and doesn't mark on something very big and massive with its dynamic tonality. A few weak tracks that were not really memorable and some pretty weak, lackluster production. It doesn't bring in something very good to listen to the whole album with a top-notch quality of an album. But for Genesis to release this album for the first time, I can definitely respect it, and it does, for me, provide something on a big mark of where Genesis are going to proceed with some more versatility and adventurous sounds and influences with their very progressive mark on songwriting later on in their albums. It's an album that I totally respect, and I will have to say for an album rating, I'm going to give this album a 7 out of 10. There's not really much I could personally say on the album in a very positive way, but I do like a lot of the majority on the album, with the acoustics to the psychedelics, the poppiness, and the very expansive nature. That's all I would like to say on that note, from Genesis to Revelation by Genesis. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.